Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, as we come up on Father's Day, we're going to talk about the importance of fathers in our lives. That's just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, we're coming up on Father's Day, and I am so blessed. My father is still alive and well, living in Waco, retired minister. And I think about my dad all the time. He's my role model. And somebody who knows a little something about that, Joshua Wilson. Thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Now, you lost your dad, went to heaven 6 years ago.
Yep, that's right.
You must think about him all the time.
All the time. There's not there's not a portion of my life that he doesn't influence. He's not this kind of the central stream, the backbone of how I do what I do, and really why I do what I do.
We're going to put some pictures up on the screen. Tell us about your dad.
Well, my dad was born in rural Alabama, had a dirt floor, no electricity, one-room shack with his parents and 2 kids. Went into the Army, served the United States Army as a a surgeon's assistant.
Okay.
Which I know you and I were talking about before.
Well, tell me about, so your dad gave you a quote on, because you were the guy that would say, hey, let's go to war.
Oh, yeah. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an Army man, and I wanted to shoot all the biggest guns, and I wanted to be, I wanted to be Rambo. And so it shocked me when, Dad, you were a surgeon's assistant. Why would you want to do something like that? Why wouldn't you be in the action? He said, son, I don't like the idea of having to kill their boys. I think I'd much rather try to fix ours. I think there's a lot to him that's in that quote. We grew up in rural Alabama, middle of nowhere. My dad owned a junkyard that sat right in front of the landfill. So I grew up the junk man's son, and so it was a very humble beginning. My dad, he was a preacher as well. He spoke in different churches. Never took an income from a church that whether he pastored or spoke. And for him, life was always about overcoming whatever obstacle that was put in front of you. We were really taught to focus on what we could control. And you hear that term, control the controllables. But my dad always put it in the context of the Bible. And I remember being on this farm in rural Alabama and hating what I was doing, and I was not cut out to be a farm boy. I didn't think, and I remember the Bible says, he would say, the Bible says, do all things heartily as unto the Lord. I believe that's Colossians 3. All things heartily as unto the Lord. And I remember saying, well, God, if I'm doing this, if I'm literally shoveling cow manure, I can do that for Jesus. I can shovel cow manure for Jesus. And that sounds kind of silly, but what I learned was that, I think in Matthew, Jesus says, he says, if you're faithful over small things, I'll make you steward over great things. And so what I learned from that is stewardship is if there a portion of stewardship is gratitude. Built into stewardship is the notion of gratitude, because you have to be in touch with what you do have, and stewarding, taking care of what you do have. And so when I'm thinking about my own life, whether I'm taking care of my clients and my business, or I'm taking care of my family, is first, make sure you're doing what you can do heartily with all you can, and stewarding it and being proud of it. If you can do that, not thinking about what you don't have.
Sure.
And how you could serve better if only you had more to serve, but being in touch with that gratitude for what you do have and stewarding that very well. And that's I think the most central thing that my father had imparted into me in my life.
Wow. My dad told me one time, parenting doesn't stop when the kid goes off to college. And that's true. It seems like every time there's a crisis in my life, I call my dad.
Absolutely.
Do you miss not being able to pick up the phone? And
Absolutely. I think that the lessons that he taught me and the things that he said, I still remember the lessons that he said, and they ring in my ears. My dad was a man of very few words. The words were slow coming. There was no frill to it, but he was very succinct. And so the words that he, and when you think about a John Wayne or an old cowboy figure, and he did love the Cowboys, but when you think of those figures, he talked slow, very few words, but they mattered. And I think that those things come back, and I would love to call him on the phone, but I already know what he would say. And one of the things that he would always tell me is, like, I'm not raising a child. I'm not raising a child. I'm not here to raise a child. I'm here to raise a man. I'm here to raise you to be a man, and you take care of yourself.
wow.
And so there was no point in my life where my dad wasn't preparing me for the next step, whether it was budgeting your allowance and budgeting your school lunches and that sort of thing. Everything was always preparing you for the next step. And he would tell me, you are a man. You've been raised to be a man.
Well, he must have been so proud of you going to Brown. I mean, an Ivy League boy coming from Alabama.
I should have had a passport, Jeff. I should have had a passport.
Well, you were telling me something before the show that you're the first person from your county ever to go to an Ivy League school.
Yes, I was very blessed. I'm the first person in my county history to go to any Ivy League school ever, and I think it was appointed for me. My parents taught me to dream big and just go for it and control what you can control, and I think those things can work out for you if you just do the right things, control what you can control. And I mean, back then I could have told you all the different ways that it would never work out for me. And I remember telling my mom when I was a kid, I want to go to Harvard. Why? Because that's the best thing I'd ever heard of. And I was at a football camp. So I played football. And it was they called it the Capital City Combine in Montgomery, and they asked, this guy came up to me and he says, "Hey, is this stats for real?" I'm thinking he's talking about 40-yard dash or bench press or number of sacks I had. I was a defensive end. I said, "Oh yeah." He said, "No, I'm talking about the academics." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, when did you take that ACT score?" I said, "8th grade." He said, "Oh, well, I bet you could get that up." It's like, "Yeah, I'm sure, but I don't need to." And he said, "Well, I'm a regional recruiter. I'm a contract recruiter, and you're probably the only person here I can talk to. But if you're interested in some of these more academic schools, I'll put you in contact with them." Very next week, I start getting calls from Harvard and Brown and Yale and Columbia and Princeton and Stanford and all these other great schools. And shocking to me, I'd given up on that because I thought. I remember with my dad, I broke my finger. And when I was 12, my dad, as you know, was a medic in the Army, and I don't want to hide it from him because I knew that we wouldn't be able to afford it. And so he saw it one day. He told me, "Son, that's broken. We had to sell some things to pay for the surgery to fix this finger." And I felt so bad about it. And my dad said, "Son, it's okay because that's an investment." I said, "Well, Dad, what do you mean by that?" And he said, "Well, it's an investment because I know you want to go to college, and if you're going to go to college, you're going to need that finger to sack the quarterback. That's how we were going to pay for college. You want to go, you better get a football scholarship." That's the only way we'd ever seen anybody leave. My brother had played at Auburn 14 years before I did, so that's the way we knew to get out. And that's the way I had thought of. But at the same time, I was doing things right in the classroom. I was controlling what I could control. And then all I needed was that God spark to give me that chance to put something in front of me, to allow me to do something. And people ask me all the time, were you the valedictorian at Brown? Is that how you spoke at Brown? Absolutely not. There were so many, so many extremely intelligent people. And I believe that there was a purpose for me that God wanted his name glorified that day, and I wanted to glorify my parents, because to me, my parents represented the people out there that are doing the right things, that are controlling what they can control, that are depending on themselves, pulling them up. And I know the whole bootstraps thing is mixed messages there, but they control what they can control. They raise their children to do the right thing, and we had a chance to go do so. All of us had to get a chance to go to college, and there is truth in if you're faithful over the small things, and that is a principle I believe that the world operates on. Now, I'm a man of faith, obviously, so I believe that the Lord is who hung who put these rules of the universe in place. But the fact is, those rules are good for everyone. If you do the right things, you control what you can control, you focus your attitude, you put your mind on the right things, you focus, you're going to get more of whatever you think about, Jeff. You're going to get more of whatever you focus on.
Yes.
And so I believe that those things, these basic lessons you talked to me about, I wish I could call my dad. Absolutely. I would love to hear him say the things that I'm saying to you, because he says them better.
Wow. Well, I just got chills. You mentioned you did give the graduation speech, and
Yes.
if you're wanting a longer version, you can go to YouTube. But let's show a clip.
When I was 9 years old, my daddy stopped in the middle of our chores out in the hayfields of rural Alabama. He pulled out a handkerchief and wiped the sweat that was dripping from his chin. "You know, son," he said as he folded his handkerchief, "I grew up in a 2-room shack with dirt floors and no electricity. Owning this little house and farm is my dream come true. But I know that this ain't your dream, and that's fine by me and your mama." He said that if I had faith and worked long and hard enough, one day I could go to college and do whatever it is I wanted to do. Sitting in a freshman writing class at Brown, I didn't feel like the typical Brown student. I didn't know what the typical Brown student was like. I just knew that I was not one of them. I knew about raising cattle, not postmodernism. I knew me some football, not feminism. I knew the Old Testament by heart, but I knew nothing about Judaism. In church, I sang soulful Southern black gospel side by side with my mama and sister, but the concept of Mass was completely foreign to me. I grew up surrounded by beauty, but I knew nothing of art. My classmates were certainly not first-generation college students, or I assumed. And Christian farm boys from poor and rural regions in Alabama seemed just a bit underrepresented as I looked around the room. Today, I stand before you no longer a naive freshman trying to blend into the crowd, but a confident and seasoned graduate, proud of who I am, where I have been, and with a head full of new dreams. I stand before you today, a typical Brown student.
Okay, had you given a lot of speeches? I mean, you're a natural. I mean, I was laughing as I was watching this.
Well, thank you. I had not given a lot of speeches. That I pretty much sat down and just wrote that speech. I mean, it just came to me. I was blessed with it. I can't take a lot of responsibility for that, but I had spoken some in high school. As you know, I was an athlete, and so I spoke at quite a few youth rallies and at a few churches and
Sure.
things like that, but no, I'd never spoken to that amount of people by anything close.
At the very end, there's a nice moment.
Today, I see my father, my precious mother in the audience, and I realize that I've accomplished my dreams by standing on their dreams. Daddy, thank you for believing in me and teaching me how to be a hard worker. Mama, thank you for encouraging me and teaching me how to love. Most of all, I thank the one who saw fit to prosper me despite my inadequacy, to use me despite my hypocrisy, and to love me even when I failed to love in return. I thank the one to whom both this university and this church were founded to honor, my Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ.
So I had not told my parents that I was going to be giving this speech, but it was her first trip to Brown, and the Brown we could give the speech in the first Baptist church in America, because Brown was founded Baptist. Now my dad was ordained originally as a Baptist minister, so it's pretty cool that he's getting to see his son up here. And so I tell him right before that, hey, I'm actually getting the speech, and you're going, because where are we going to do it? Because the church is small, it's just enough room for the graduates. And so I got up and gave my speech, and I was able to honor them as you saw in the speech, which is extremely important to me. And I just got to, I was supposed to go back to my seat, but you've only got one chance. My mom is,
Yes.
in absolute tears, as is her custom. And, I just got to go in and just give them a big embrace and say, thank you. I'm here because of you.
Wow.
You're the things you taught me, and I listened. I
Yes.
did what you told me to do. I did it how you told me to do it, and I've been rewarded, and here you are to share it with me.
You gave another powerful speech, in air quotes, because it was a celebration of your dad's life.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was, my dad passed in 2017, so a little over 5 years ago, and this is tough to talk about, but it was very important to me and all four of us children got up and said something, and I was last because I'm the loudest, I'm the youngest. But I got to get up and I sang.
Only imagine what it was like. Daddy walked by your side.
I grew up singing in church and that sort of thing. My family's very musically inclined, so I got to sing I Can Only Imagine for him, because that was one of his favorite songs for me to sing. And then I got to say a few words for him, and I loved getting to talk about his relationship with my mom and the way that they kind of blended together, because where he was weak, she was strong, and where he was too strong, she was softer. And, they just had this great dynamic of that super strong masculine and that strong feminine and together. So I got to honor them, Dad, both in the context of what he built. And so it's one of the most memorable things I've got to talk about in my life is my dad, because he's the most meaningful person in my life, most influential by far.
Yeah. Tell us about the company you're with now.
Acruence Capital. So we founded in 2020. I've been a chief investment officer and a CEO of several wealth management firms, one of which was acquired just last year. And Acruence Capital, basically, we were founded originally to help advisors. So a lot of advisors, they really just kind of buy investments and they diversify and they kind of hope, but there's really not a lot of plan in place for most advisors of what happens if everything goes wrong. Right? So our specialty is around really protecting portfolios. So we call that hedging. But it's funny because people tend to protect the most important things in their life. They have their house, they have their car, they have their health and their life, and so they'll buy car insurance, house insurance, life insurance, health insurance, and they have this investment portfolio that they're just hoping that doesn't fall in value. Yes. And so the only thing they know to do to protect themselves is buy less of the things that tend to go up in value.
Right.
Or they try to time the market, which is so difficult.
Right.
So what we do at Acruence is we really specialize in protecting portfolios. I won't get into all the technical details here, Jeff, but we specialize in protected portfolios. And so we've started the business really working with advisors. So we help advisors do this complicated math. I'm a PhD candidate, by the way, at Oklahoma State University in finance, specializing in behavior finance and also machine learning. So I have a background in derivatives trading, and I won't get into all that stuff here. So all the nerdy stuff. We're here to talk about Dad, but we specialize in helping advisors to protect, as a sub-advisor, to help them protect their clients' portfolios. And in the next year, we're going to be delving into working directly with individuals and families.
But I'm sure your dad's passion about integrity and honor plays a role in how you operate in your business life.
Absolutely. I mean, it literally is where my philosophy comes from, because the first thing you got to do is you can't lose what you got.
Right.
and I want to invest and I want to expose this to risk so I can get more. But more than anything else, if I just don't have any big losses, if I don't have any catastrophic losses, I can handle the little stuff, right? So it's kind of like a deductible on your car insurance, right? I can handle the little stuff. So that has molded my investment philosophy. It's why I got into the derivatives protection strategies that we use to make sure we can protect what we've already got. And then it's just how we treat clients, right? Acruence is we're flirting with 600 million in AUM already. We were just founded in 2020.
Wow.
So things are going very well over there with the growth. And like I said, I'm really looking forward to beginning to work with more individuals again, because that's where my background is working with individuals. But advisors has been great because you can leverage yourself when you work with other advisors.
All right, we're almost out of time, Joshua. So look into that camera right there and give the audience advice about dads.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I think that dads can be tough because they are tough, and they make their role is to make us tough. Some of the things that I didn't like so much that my dad said are the things that I love the most now. So I think appreciating dads is appreciating for what they are, what they offer, even if it's the difficult situation, the difficult things to say. Dads are the ones that push us, that push us out of our comfort zone, and that push us to grow up and to push us to do the next thing. And so, I think my advice on dads is to love them the way they are, and appreciate and understand that a dad's honor tends to come much later in life. I think that, my dad's honor is the way I live, is his grandchildren's lives and things like that. But he was not a man of honor while he was alive, because all those things were the most difficult things that he had to teach. So love your dads where they are, right where they're at right now. One day, you'll appreciate those things, I believe, that maybe you don't appreciate so much. I know that I sure do now that mine's gone.
I think you have a preacher's heart, just like your dad. We're going to end with your website, which is Acruence.com. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. I've really enjoyed it.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.